So the first step after raising your truck is to separate your bushings, and so they're going to require a little bit of pulling. I already broke this apart before, but you're just going to have to pull and twist and they'll come off. So to install the bushings with the sleeves, it's rather straightforward. All you need to do is I'll take some of your lubricant or your grease just to make it easier, but you really should. It's not going to go in without it. Get it on your bushings all the way around, everywhere. Don't need to, but just helpful, just on the end there. And then you're just going to take it and slide it right inside. And then once it's all the way in, just do the other side, same thing. Then just right inside. The last thing to do is to put the sleeve in. And so also with this guy, using grease is just going to make it a lot easier. So get some, you can be a little generous. Put it around the sleeve. And then you're just going to slide it in. Get as far as it'll go. And then use a mallet to get it the rest of the way. Now, if you're having trouble to get it in with the mallet, this guy is binding up here. Another easy way to do it is using the clamp. Now, all you have to do is just line it up. So I'm going to unscrew this a bit more. Take your clamp, line it up, and slowly put it together so it's just the right length. And line up the bottom, the top, keep it straight too. That's important. And once you have it lined up, again, make sure that's straight and flat. Right there should do it. Just continue tightening, and it should slide right through. And once you do that, you're done. It's all the way through, and it takes almost no effort. So some quick impressions are that the new one is actually a lot lighter than the old one. Also, you'll see that the bushing is a lot smaller itself. But what's different is that whereas this is just completely open, and it's only bent, it's also welded too, but this is completely boxed off, which should give it a lot more strength. The weight shouldn't matter at all, but also the new bushing type, or new bushing, should help with binding issues. So now it's time to install it back in the truck. So a couple things you're going to need to do before starting the job. Obviously you need to jack at least the rear of the truck up, give it a couple inches. The other thing is dropping the spare, just because you're going to need access to underneath behind. It's really just going to make it a lot easier. And then the last thing is, it's not absolutely necessary, but it's very useful to have a third jack when it actually moves, not just a stand that can support the axle. That way, when you disconnect the shackle, it doesn't move anywhere. It probably won't move anyways, but it's better to have than not to. Also, if you need to adjust the axle position or the leaf spring position at all when bolting it back together, it's very useful to have this here. A lot easier for a jack to do than using your own hands. So the few tools you're going to need in order to do this easily is actually, you don't need like any of these. You're going to need a 13/16 wrench, or something you can just get on the other side of the bolt. And then you're going to need a 24mm socket. Also, this is a 15/16, if I'm not mistaken. This guy's to pull the nut off of the bolt. So it's going to be the same setup for each side, and for the two bolts on each leaf or shackle. However, the only thing you need to consider, or the only one note, is that the bolts and nuts are actually on in reverse directions. So one of the sides actually may be quite difficult because the leaf is going to be pushing up, or the bolt is going to be pushing up against right there. So this is the most difficult spot to line up, getting that out. Just take your impact wrench on one side, then a 13/16 on the other side, and just impact that out. Okay, and sometimes they might be stuck, so in that case, you're just need to take a breaker bar or manufacture your own and just pull it, and it'll come right out. Don't worry about giving it too much force. It should just slide right out or unscrew. So you may notice I already have the shackles in. Well, the problem is that they're actually backwards. That's why I am taking them out and going to flip them around. They should be up the other way, where this bend should be facing that direction. But as you can see, there's one, so you have the bolt there, and actually on the inside, right there is where the nut is. I already took it off, and then that's the bolt there. That's the other one, and that one comes off over here. So that's how it is in the stock position, and that's reversed. However, because of this seam here, you can see I actually scraped against it getting this out the first time. It's very difficult to get out. How I did it is removing the shackle first, or the bottom part of the shackle, and then moving the leaf spring down. However, on the other side, this didn't work. I actually had to take a ratchet strap to pull the leaf string forward, or the leaf spring forward, and also clamp on this end where it separates right over here, to move it both down and forward. That's how I was able to get it. Talking about it likes rubbing. This side seems to be a bit easier. Starboard side, right side of the vehicle, passenger side. You're gonna have to bang that through. It's gonna take a little bit of force, but you don't have to worry too much about damaging this. If anything, if you need to, just push the leaf spring down a little bit or a little bit up, just to wiggle it through. So the orientation is going to be very important. You do not want to have the shackle lined up as such. This is the wrong way. Okay, that's not how it goes. You need this corner here on this side, you need that to be facing the rear of the truck. That is how the shackle is supposed to go, like this. So in the end, this is the correct orientation that you're gonna want. You want the angle to be as such. Yeah, and I'm gonna get these wires out of the way a little bit later. Well, I don't recommend doing this. Finding another way is better. If you are, I recommend using a higher working load limit. Ratchet strap. I connected it there. Ideally, you take that nut off. You put it on, then screw the nut on just to hold it in place, but it's good enough. What I need to do here is, because of the weld seam, I need to actually bolt it on. So I reversed this bolt to give it a mount point on the rear end, because we need to pull that side this way. If you put it on this side, it's going to twist it the opposite direction, and we don't want that. So it's pulling a little bit outward and forward. And then what happens when you do that is that it lifts, besides just moving the entire leaf spring forward, it also raises it. So the other thing you have to do is, on this side here, you need to take a C-clamp like I did here, and you need to compress this side. Once you do, that's going to pull the leaf spring forward and also drop it, which should give you just enough clearance here. But as you can see, even with all the movement, it's still going to be a very tight fit because of this weld seam. So just be careful when you hammer it out, and also hammer it back in. One quick note, you cannot reverse this bolt direction afterwards, even if you think it's easier. It would be easier to put back in, but under full articulation, you're going to have this bit here stick out, and what's going to happen is that it's going to hit the frame or interfere in different areas potentially, and obviously that's bad because that affects your articulation. So make sure to put it in the stock way. All right, so obviously before you take off the old shackle with the tension, release the tension and then get it out the rest of the way. The bolt is strong enough that you can just hammer it out. And then once you're getting it in again, get in as far as it'll go. then reattach it to the side, tighten the strap, get the shackle going in again, and then just start hammering away. It may scrape a little bit, but that's gonna be fine. It's not gonna damage the welds. Okay, so you're going to want to raise your axle on the side you're working when putting the second bolt of the shackle in. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to line it up. Now at this point, I could just lift the leaf spring a little bit more to get it perfectly aligned, but I'm just going to lift the axle a little bit. Then it should just wiggle into place. As that's the perfect positioning, we're going to take our bolt and we're going to slide it right through. Okay, so overall impressions. I wasn't honestly expecting it. I did expect some kind of improvement, but over very, very bumpy roads, is all I've tested on so far. The experience is so different. It's so much smoother. It's you can really feel the shackles or leaf springs articulating a lot better. They don't give as much of a pop, I would guess you could say, especially at higher speeds or when, higher speeds, driving quickly, or very bumpy terrain. Smaller you don't notice such a big difference, and when driving slow, nothing major, but there is a noticeable difference even just driving regularly on the road. It's really quite amazing what this little $200 or $300 upgrade, whether you go from MIG or TIG welded, can do. Just to note, these are not the drop shackles. These are the stock length ones. So just replacement ones. As I'm not going higher with leaf springs, I don't care to lower the rear at all. I mean, that's basically it. There's nothing much else to say. I highly recommend this upgrade. It's a little bit of a pain to do. It took me a couple hours to figure it out the first time. Using ratchet straps and clamps wasn't the thing I was expecting. However, in the end, it worked out very well. I also didn't see any videos previously of people doing this to the Raptors, changing out just the shackles. I've seen people take out the leaves, etc., but not the shackles. So this, I think, is a little different of a video, something people haven't done or seen before, and I think I highly recommend going for these shackles. They really do make a difference. What's making that difference is really the bushings at this point. Now, the other advantage to these shackles, once again, is that they are stronger than the stock ones. Not that you need much stronger than the stock ones, but it doesn't hurt. But yeah, once again, these bushings are way better than the stock ones. So this is just a quick note. The shackles is that they're honestly so much better than I expected. They're a lot smaller than the stock ones, which is interesting. But now going over, at least on roads, I have yet to test it off-road, so I will and get back to you all on that. But that'll be after I complete all the suspension mods, including the upper control arms. It's a lot smoother, even on super bumpy areas, just completely broken road. My rear end is not kicking up anymore. I keep traction a lot better. It stays a lot smoother, and there's just less noise in the back too. It's really interesting. I wasn't expecting this. For $200 for the MIG ones, MIG welded, I would absolutely recommend them. The TIG welded, they're not necessary. I just did because go big or go home. But yeah, these shackles from Camburg are 100% worth the upgrade. Even if you just drive on road, they are absolutely amazing.